Deep in the heart of an isolated forest stood an old wooden cabin, surrounded by towering trees that stretched into the sky like skeletal fingers. At sunset, the golden light filtering through the canopy painted the scene with tranquility. Smoke drifted lazily from the chimney, and everything seemed peaceful. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, the encroaching shadows whispered of something sinister, lurking just beyond the trees. Elena had come here seeking solitude, a quiet place to escape her chaotic life. For the first few days, the cabin provided exactly that. But on the fourth night, everything changed. It began with a faint tapping on the window, erratic and unsettling, like fingers drumming on glass. Frozen in her chair, Elena turned towards the sound. The curtains were drawn, and for a moment, she hesitated. Finally, she pulled them aside, only to see nothing but the dark, void of the forest staring back at her. The next morning, however, she discovered large, muddy footprints outside. They were unmistakably human, yet impossibly large. They led from the forest to her window, and then vanished back into the trees. That night, the tapping returned, louder, more insistent. Elena ignored it, pulling the blankets over her head and praying it would stop. But then she heard something worse, a deep, guttural breathing outside her window, heavy and deliberate. She stayed frozen until dawn, her heart pounding with fear. When daylight came, she found scratches on the glass. They weren't random. They formed a single chilling word: mine. Terrified, Elena decided she had to leave. She packed her belongings and drove down the narrow dirt road leading away from the cabin. But as the forest grew thicker around her, her car sputtered and died. Stranded with no signal and no help, she had no choice but to return to the cabin on foot. As twilight fell, the forest became suffocatingly dark. Branches seemed to reach out for her, and the thick mist swirled around her feet. Then she saw it. A figure in the distance, partially obscured by trees. It was tall, unnaturally thin, and its glowing yellow eyes pierced through the shadows. Panic overtook her, and she ran, the forest seeming to close in around her. When she reached the cabin, she slammed the door shut and locked it. But the tapping returned, louder than ever, rattling the walls of the cabin. The entire structure seemed to shake under the weight of whatever was outside. And then it stopped. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then the door exploded inward, splinters flying across the room. Standing in the doorway was the figure from the woods, towering and monstrous. Its glowing eyes fixed on Elena. The dim firelight flickered wildly, casting terrifying shadows on the walls as the creature stepped forward. The air grew thick, heavy with dread. Elena tried to scream, but no sound escaped her lips.